They made her remove her earrings as punishment for being 5 minutes late, claiming they violated the company dress code. What they didn't know was that those simple silver studs contained technology worth more than their annual salaries combined. And when the CEO walked into that conference room and saw what they'd confiscated, everything changed. Because Emma Chen wasn't just another temporary administrative assistant trying to make rent. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The elevator climbed toward the 42nd floor of Apex Technologies, with the smooth precision that only came with expensive engineering. Emma Chen stood in the corner, her reflection multiplied in the polished steel walls, watching the numbers climb with the kind of calm that most people mistook for nervousness. She adjusted the strap of her worn leather messenger bag and checked her watch again. 7:58 in the morning. 2 minutes early for her first day as a temporary administrative assistant. The earrings caught the elevator's harsh fluorescent light as she tucked a strand of dark hair behind her ear. Simple silver studs, nothing remarkable about them to the casual observer. The kind of jewelry a 26-year-old woman might wear to look professional without drawing attention. Clean lines, modest size, exactly what someone would choose if they were trying to blend into a corporate environment where standing out was the last thing they wanted. Emma had been many things over the past 3 years, but forgettable wasn't usually one of them. Today, though, forgettable was exactly what she needed to be. Just another face in the crowd of temporary workers that flowed through Apex Technologies like water through a sieve. The kind of person executives walked past without a second glance, the kind whose presence was noted only when something went wrong. The elevator doors whispered open to reveal the executive floor of one of Denver's most prestigious cybersecurity firms. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the Rocky Mountains in the distance, their peaks still dusted with early autumn snow. The reception area stretched before her like something from an architectural magazine, all clean lines and expensive materials designed to impress government clients and intimidate competitors. Lisa Thompson looked up from behind the reception desk with the kind of smile that was professionally warm, but personally distant. She was probably 35. With the polished appearance of someone who'd worked her way up from entry level and never forgot where she came from. Her burgundy blazer was perfectly tailored, her makeup flawless despite the early hour, and her desk organized with the precision of someone who knew that details mattered in a place like this. "You must be Emma," Lisa said, extending a manicured hand. "Welcome to Apex Technologies. I'm Lisa, the reception manager. We spoke on the phone yesterday about your assignment." Emma shook the offered hand with just enough firmness to seem confident without appearing aggressive. "Thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to working here. Your supervisor will be Derek Matthews from our security department. He handles all temporary staff placements and orientation." Lisa's smile flickered slightly, a barely perceptible change that someone less observant might have missed entirely. "He should be here any moment to get you started." The waiting area was designed to impress, with leather chairs arranged around a glass coffee table loaded with industry magazines and company brochures. Emma chose a seat that gave her a clear view of both the elevator bank and the hallway leading deeper into the executive suite. Old habits died hard, and situational awareness was one of those skills that became second nature after enough time in environments where paying attention kept you alive. She pulled out her phone and scrolled through emails with the casual disinterest of someone killing time, but her peripheral vision tracked every movement in the space around her. The security cameras mounted discreetly in the corners, their lenses tracking visitors with algorithmic precision. The card readers beside every door, requiring specific clearance levels for access. The way Lisa's fingers hovered over what was probably a panic button, disguised as part of her desk setup. Apex Technologies took security seriously, which made sense, given their client base. Government contracts, Defense Department cybersecurity, the kind of work that required background checks and security clearances, and the understanding that certain conversations never happened in spaces where they might be overheard. Emma had done her research, naturally. The kind of thorough investigation that most temporary workers wouldn't bother with, but then again, most temporary workers weren't here for the reasons she was. The elevator chimed again, and Derek Matthews stepped out with the kind of purposeful stride that announced his importance to anyone paying attention. He was 40-something, with the build of someone who'd played college football and still hit the gym regularly enough to maintain the impression of physical authority. His security badge hung from a retractable cord, and his polo shirt bore the Apex Technologies logo embroidered in thread that probably cost more than Emma's entire outfit. "Emma Chen?" His voice carried the confidence of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. "I'm Derek Matthews, Head of Security and Facility Management. I'll be handling your orientation and assignment." Emma stood and extended her hand, noting the slight pause before he shook it. His grip was firm to the point of being uncomfortable, the kind of handshake designed to establish dominance rather than build rapport. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Matthews. I appreciate the opportunity to work here." "Let's get one thing straight from the beginning," Derek said, his voice carrying easily across the reception area despite its conversational tone. Apex Technologies maintains the highest standards of professionalism and security in the industry. Temporary staff are held to the same expectations as permanent employees, with zero tolerance for mistakes that could compromise our operations or reputation. Lisa continued typing at her computer, but Emma noticed the slight tension in her shoulders that suggested she was listening to every word. This wasn't Derek's first orientation speech, and judging by the reception manager's body language, it wasn't always a pleasant experience for the temporary staff on the receiving end. "I understand completely," Emma replied. "I've reviewed the employee handbook and confidentiality agreements. I'm committed to maintaining the highest professional standards." Derek studied her for a moment, his expression suggesting he was cataloging details for future reference. Her clothes, probably noting that her blouse was from a discount retailer, and her shoes showed signs of wear. Her posture, relaxed but attentive in the way that came from confidence rather than nervousness. The small silver earrings that caught the light when she moved her head. "Good!" "Your assignment today is administrative support for the Henderson Industries presentation. We're competing for a major government cybersecurity contract, and everything needs to be perfect. No room for the kind of amateur mistakes we sometimes see from temporary staff." The Henderson Industries presentation. Emma had seen references to it in the preliminary research that brought her to Apex Technologies in the first place. A Defense Department contract worth somewhere north of $50 million. The kind of deal that could make or break a company's fiscal year. The kind of contract that attracted attention from people who preferred to operate in the shadows. "What will my specific responsibilities include?" she asked, pulling out a small notebook and pen with movements that suggested someone accustomed to taking detailed notes. "Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us." Now back to the story. Meeting setup, document distribution, basic administrative tasks. The client presentation begins at 10, and I expect everything to be prepared and organized by 9:30. Derek checked his watch with the gesture of someone conscious of time as a resource to be managed efficiently. "Kyle Johnson will show you to the conference room and explain the specific requirements." As if summoned by the mention of his name, Kyle Johnson emerged from the hallway, leading deeper into the executive suite. He was younger than Derek, maybe 25, with the eager energy of someone still proving himself in a corporate environment where experience trumped enthusiasm. His security badge was newer, shinier, and hung from a lanyard instead of the retractable cord that marked senior staff. "Kyle, this is Emma Chen, temporary administrative support for the Henderson presentation. Get her set up and make sure she understands exactly what's expected." Kyle nodded with the quick enthusiasm of someone hoping to make a good impression on his supervisor. "Absolutely, Mr. Matthews. I'll take care of everything." Derek turned back to Emma with an expression that managed to be both professional and vaguely threatening. "Remember, this presentation could determine Apex Technologies' future in the government contracting space. Any mistakes, any security breaches, any unprofessional behavior will be dealt with immediately and permanently. Are we clear?" "Perfectly clear," Emma replied, meeting his gaze with the kind of steady eye contact that suggested someone unintimidated by corporate power plays. "Excellent. Kyle, get her started. I'll check back before the presentation to ensure everything is properly organized." Kyle gestured toward the hallway with a smile that seemed genuine despite the underlying tension of working under Derek's supervision. "Right this way, Emma. The conference room is just down the hall, and I'll show you where everything is stored." They walked past offices with glass walls that offered glimpses of the kind of high-level work that happened at Apex Technologies. Engineers hunched over multiple monitors displaying code that looked like digital hieroglyphics. Project managers coordinating with teams via video conference calls that connected Denver with offices in Washington, Silicon Valley, and locations that probably didn't appear on any public organizational chart. The conference room was impressive even by corporate standards. A massive mahogany table surrounded by leather chairs that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Wall-mounted displays capable of presenting anything from financial projections to classified briefing materials. A video conferencing system sophisticated enough to handle secure communications with government facilities around the world. "This is where the magic happens," Kyle said with the kind of pride that came from working for a company whose reputation opened doors throughout the industry. "The Henderson Industries presentation will determine whether Apex gets the biggest government contract in our company's history." Emma set her messenger bag on a side table and pulled out her notebook, ready to take detailed notes about her responsibilities. What exactly does Henderson Industries do? They're a Defense Department intermediary, basically. They evaluate cybersecurity firms for major government contracts and make recommendations about which companies get clearance for the really classified work. Kyle began pulling presentation materials from a locked cabinet, his movements quick and efficient. If we impress them today, Apex could be handling cybersecurity for operations that most people don't even know exist. The kind of operations that required the sort of security clearances Emma possessed, though Kyle had no way of knowing that. The kind of contracts that attracted attention from intelligence agencies, foreign operatives, and corporate competitors willing to go to extraordinary lengths for inside information. The kind of environment where a temporary administrative assistant with the right background might be very useful indeed. "What time does the presentation start?" Emma asked, noting the way Kyle unconsciously touched his security badge when discussing classified operations. 10 o'clock sharp. The Henderson Industries team will include their CEO, Patricia Williams, and several department heads who specialize in evaluating cybersecurity capabilities. Kyle arranged presentation folders with mathematical precision, each one containing identical materials, but customized with the recipient's name embossed in gold lettering. Derek wants everything perfect because Williams has a reputation for noticing every detail. Patricia Williams. Emma had studied her background extensively during the weeks of preparation that led to this assignment. Former Air Force intelligence officer, decorated veteran of operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, founder of Henderson Industries after leaving active duty with connections throughout the defense and intelligence communities. The kind of person who understood that in the cybersecurity world, the most dangerous threats often came from the inside. "Is there anything specific about the presentation setup that I should know?" Emma asked, her pen poised over her notebook as if she were simply another temporary worker trying to avoid mistakes that might cost her the assignment. "Mr. Matthews is very particular about document security. All presentation materials stay in this room until the meeting begins, and afterwards everything gets locked back in that cabinet." Kyle pointed to a heavy steel filing cabinet that looked more appropriate for classified documents than corporate presentations. He also insists on checking all temporary staff for potential security violations before important meetings. Security violations. Emma made a note in her margin, though not for the reasons Kyle might expect. What kind of violations? Unauthorized recording devices, cell phones that aren't company approved, jewelry that might contain hidden cameras or transmitters. Basically anything that could be used for corporate espionage. Kyle's tone suggested he was reciting policies he'd memorized rather than procedures he necessarily understood. With government contracts, you can never be too careful about information security. The irony wasn't lost on Emma, though her expression remained professionally neutral. That makes perfect sense. Information security is obviously critical in this industry. They spent the next hour organizing presentation materials, testing audio-visual equipment, and ensuring that every detail met the exacting standards Derek Matthews expected. Kyle proved to be a competent colleague despite his obvious nervousness about working under Derek's supervision. He explained the coffee service protocol, demonstrated the video conferencing system, and showed Emma where to find backup supplies in case anything went wrong during the presentation. "One more thing," Kyle said as they finished the setup process. "Mr. Matthews usually does a final security check about 30 minutes before important meetings. He'll want to verify that you're not carrying anything that could compromise the presentation." Emma nodded as if this were perfectly reasonable rather than an opportunity she'd been counting on. Of course, security has to be the top priority. At 9:15, Derek Matthews returned to the conference room with the purposeful stride of someone conducting a military inspection. He surveyed the presentation setup with a critical eye, checking document placement, testing microphone levels, and ensuring that every detail met his specifications. Kyle stood slightly behind him, ready to address any concerns that might arise. "Acceptable work," Derek pronounced after several minutes of scrutiny. "Now we need to conduct the security verification for temporary staff." Emma looked up from her notebook with the expression of someone who had expected this but was still slightly nervous about the process. "What does that involve?" "Standard protocol for anyone with access to sensitive materials during high-level presentations. We need to verify that you're not carrying any unauthorized devices that could be used for recording or transmitting information." Derek's tone was matter-of-fact, as if this were as routine as checking ID badges or signing confidentiality agreements. "I understand completely," Emma replied, setting down her pen with movements that suggested cooperation despite underlying discomfort with the invasion of privacy. Derek pulled a handheld metal detector from his jacket pocket, the kind of device used by security personnel at airports and government buildings. "This is just a precaution, but with the Henderson Industries contract at stake, we can't take any chances with information security." The metal detector chirped softly as Derek moved it over Emma's messenger bag, detecting nothing more threatening than her laptop, phone, and the usual collection of pens and notebooks that any administrative assistant might carry. He nodded approvingly and gestured for her to step away from the table. "I'll need you to empty your pockets and remove any jewelry that might interfere with the scanning process," Derek said, his voice maintaining the professional tone of someone conducting routine security procedures. Emma complied without hesitation, placing her phone, wallet, and keys on the conference table with the resigned efficiency of someone accustomed to security screenings. Her movements were natural, unhurried, giving no indication that this moment was exactly what she'd been preparing for. But when Derek's attention turned to her earrings, everything changed. "Those will need to come off as well," he said, pointing to the small silver studs that had caught his attention during their initial meeting. "Metal jewelry can interfere with scanning accuracy." Emma's hand moved to her ear with what appeared to be reluctance, though her hesitation had nothing to do with modesty or privacy concerns. "They're just simple studs. Surely they won't cause any problems." "Company policy is very clear about jewelry removal during security screenings," Derek replied, his tone becoming more authoritative. "No exceptions, especially for temporary staff with access to classified presentation materials." Kyle shifted uncomfortably, sensing tension but unsure of its source. Lisa Thompson had appeared in the doorway, probably drawn by the sound of Derek's increasingly commanding voice. The conference room, which had been a space of professional preparation just moments earlier, was beginning to feel like an interrogation chamber. "I'd really prefer to keep them on," Emma said, her voice carrying just enough resistance to make Derek's authority-seeking instincts kick into overdrive. "They're very small, and I don't think they'll cause any interference." "What you think is irrelevant," Derek snapped, his professional demeanor cracking to reveal the authoritarian personality underneath. "This is a security screening, not a negotiation. Remove the earrings immediately or find yourself escorted from the building." Emma looked around the room as if seeking support from Kyle or Lisa, but both remained silent in the face of Derek's obvious anger. Her fingers moved to her ears with the reluctant compliance of someone who had no choice but to submit to corporate authority. The earrings came off with a small metallic click, seemingly innocuous pieces of jewelry that Derek examined with the satisfaction of someone who had successfully imposed his will. He dropped them into a small plastic evidence bag, with the casual dismissiveness of someone confiscating contraband from a schoolchild. "These will be returned after the presentation," he announced, sealing the bag and placing it in his jacket pocket. Assuming, of course, that there are no other security issues to address. What Derek Matthews didn't know, as he stood there savoring his moment of corporate dominance, was that he had just confiscated technology that cost the United States government more than his annual salary. Technology that was currently transmitting his exact location, voice patterns, and biometric data to a classified monitoring station 3 states away. Technology that Emma Chen had been specifically ordered to deploy during her infiltration of Apex Technologies. Because Emma wasn't just another temporary administrative assistant trying to make rent in an expensive city. She was a deep-cover operative for a government agency that officially didn't exist, and those simple silver earrings contained more advanced surveillance technology than most countries possessed in their entire intelligence apparatus. And in approximately 45 minutes, when Patricia Williams walked into that conference room and saw what Derek had confiscated, Everything was going to change in ways that neither Derek Matthews nor Apex Technologies could possibly imagine. The silence in the conference room stretched like a taut wire after Derek sealed Emma's earrings in the plastic bag. Kyle fidgeted with his security badge, clearly uncomfortable with the tension that had transformed a routine security check into something that felt more like a power struggle. Lisa Thompson remained in the doorway, her expression carefully neutral but her posture suggesting someone who had witnessed Derek's authoritarian tendencies before and knew better than to intervene. Emma stood perfectly still, her hands at her sides, watching Derek pocket the evidence bag with the kind of calm that most people would mistake for submission. Inside, however, her mind was calculating distances, exit routes, and the precise timing needed to maintain her cover while ensuring the mission continued as planned. The earrings were supposed to remain in her possession throughout the infiltration, providing real-time intelligence to her handlers and serving as both communication device and emergency beacon. Derek's confiscation had just made everything exponentially more complicated. "Is there anything else you need to remove?" Derek asked, his tone carrying the satisfaction of someone who had successfully established dominance over a subordinate. The metal detector remained in his hand, ready to continue the screening process that had become less about security and more about demonstrating his authority over temporary staff who couldn't fight back without risking their employment. "No, sir," Emma replied, her voice carrying just the right mixture of compliance and barely suppressed resentment. "I believe that's everything." Derek activated the metal detector again, running it slowly over Emma's body with the methodical precision of someone who enjoyed having power over others. The device remained silent as it passed over her shoulders, arms, and torso, detecting nothing more threatening than the underwire in her bra and the small zipper on her skirt. He seemed almost disappointed by the lack of additional contraband to confiscate. "Clean," he announced, switching off the device with a sharp click. "You can return to your preparations. The Henderson Industries team will arrive in 30 minutes, and I expect everything to be perfect when they walk through that door." Kyle exhaled quietly, the sound barely audible but enough to indicate his relief that the uncomfortable screening process was finally over. "Should I continue briefing Emma on the presentation protocol?" he asked, his voice carefully respectful as he sought to return the room's atmosphere to something approaching normal professionalism. "Do whatever is necessary to ensure success," Derek replied, his attention already shifting to other concerns. "But remember, any mistakes during this presentation will be considered a reflection of your supervision, Johnson. I trust you understand the implications for your performance review." The threat was subtle but unmistakable, delivered with the casual cruelty of someone who understood that fear was often more effective than direct intimidation. Kyle's face flushed slightly, but he maintained his professional composure with the practiced skill of someone accustomed to navigating Derek's moods and expectations. "Absolutely, sir. Everything will be perfect." Derek nodded curtly and strode toward the door, pausing only to address Lisa Thompson, who had remained silent throughout the entire exchange. "Ensure that security protocols are maintained throughout the presentation. No unauthorized personnel in the executive wing, no exceptions." "Of course, Mr. Matthews," Lisa replied, her tone professionally neutral despite the obvious discomfort in her eyes. She had worked at Apex Technologies long enough to recognize Derek's behavior patterns, and Emma's screening had clearly crossed lines that made her uncomfortable. After Derek disappeared down the hallway, the conference room's atmosphere began to relax marginally. Kyle ran his hand through his hair with the gesture of someone releasing tension he hadn't realized he was holding, while Lisa stepped fully into the room and closed the door behind her with a soft click. "I'm sorry about that," Kyle said quietly, his voice carrying genuine embarrassment about his supervisor's behavior. "Derek gets really intense before major presentations. He's under a lot of pressure from upper management to ensure everything goes smoothly." Emma began organizing her notebook and pen with movements that suggested someone refocusing on work after an unpleasant but necessary interruption. "It's fine. I understand that security is important in this industry. I just wasn't expecting such a thorough screening process." Lisa approached the conference table with the careful steps of someone choosing her words deliberately. "Derek's security measures have become increasingly strict over the past few months. There have been some concerns about corporate espionage, competitors trying to gain access to our government contracts." The admission was more than Lisa probably should have shared with temporary staff, but Emma sensed an opportunity to gather intelligence that might prove useful as the mission progressed. "Have there been actual security breaches?" she asked, her tone suggesting casual curiosity rather than professional interest. "Nothing confirmed," Kyle replied, glancing toward the door as if worried that Derek might return unexpectedly. "But there have been some irregularities. Unauthorized access attempts on our computer systems, employees reporting conversations being overheard in supposedly secure areas, that kind of thing." "The kind of thing that makes Derek paranoid about everyone and everything," Lisa added, her voice carrying years of frustration with security measures that seemed to target employees rather than actual threats. "Especially temporary staff. He's convinced that any security breach will come from someone without long-term loyalty to the company." Emma nodded sympathetically, while mentally cataloging this information for later analysis. Corporate espionage concerns at Apex Technologies suggested that other intelligence agencies or foreign operatives might be targeting the same contracts and classified information that had brought her here. The situation was potentially more complicated than her initial briefing had indicated. "Well, hopefully today's presentation goes smoothly and everyone can relax a little," she said, returning to her preparations with the focused efficiency of someone determined to prove their competence, despite the earlier unpleasantness. Kyle and Lisa exchanged glances that suggested a conversation they couldn't have in front of temporary staff, but both seemed to reach the same conclusion about Emma's professionalism and discretion. Over the next 20 minutes, they briefed her on the specific requirements for the Henderson Industries presentation, from the preferred temperature for the conference room to the exact placement of water glasses and presentation materials. The level of detail was impressive, suggesting that Apex Technologies understood the importance of making positive impressions on potential government contractors. Every element of the presentation had been carefully planned and rehearsed, from the opening remarks to the technical demonstrations that would showcase the company's cybersecurity capabilities. "Patricia Williams has a reputation for asking very specific, technical questions," Kyle explained as he arranged presentation folders with mathematical precision. "She's former military intelligence, so she understands cybersecurity from an operational perspective rather than just a theoretical one." Former military intelligence. Emma already knew Patricia Williams' background in considerable detail, but she made appropriate notes in her notebook while filing away Kyle's perspective for future reference. The fact that Apex Technologies employees were aware of Williams's intelligence background suggested they understood exactly who they were trying to impress. "What kind of technical questions should we expect?" Emma asked, her pen poised over her notebook, as if she were simply trying to prepare for her administrative duties. "Network penetration methodologies, encryption protocols, response procedures for sophisticated attacks," Lisa replied, her knowledge of the subject matter suggesting more technical background than her reception manager title might indicate. "Williams doesn't just want to hear about capabilities, she wants to understand implementation details that prove we can actually deliver what we promise." The kind of implementation details that Emma's handlers would find extremely valuable, though she maintained her expression of professional interest rather than revealing the significance of this information. Her mission parameters included gathering intelligence about Apex Technologies' actual capabilities versus their public claims, and Kyle and Lisa were providing exactly the kind of insider perspective that would help her accomplish that objective. At 9:45, the elevator chimed with the arrival of the Henderson Industries team. Emma could hear voices in the reception area, the kind of confident conversation that suggested people accustomed to evaluating companies and making decisions that affected millions of dollars in government contracts. Lisa immediately excused herself to handle the greeting and initial processing, leaving Emma and Kyle to complete their final preparations. "Remember, we're just support staff during the actual presentation," Kyle said, his nervousness becoming more apparent as the moment of truth approached. "Our job is to stay invisible, handle any technical issues that arise, and make sure the executives can focus on impressing the clients." Staying invisible was exactly what Emma intended to do, though for reasons Kyle couldn't possibly understand. Her mission required gathering intelligence about both Apex Technologies and Henderson Industries, objectives that would be much easier to accomplish if she remained unnoticed by the people who mattered most in both organizations. The conference room door opened, and Derek Matthews returned with the purposeful stride of someone conducting final inspections before an important event. He surveyed the room with a critical eye, checking document placement, adjusting the angle of a presentation folder, and ensuring that every detail met his exacting standards. "The Henderson team is being briefed on security protocols," he announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone reporting to subordinates rather than colleagues. "They'll be escorted to this conference room in exactly 5 minutes. I expect professional behavior from everyone involved." Emma stood quietly beside the presentation materials, her notebook ready and her expression appropriately attentive. To anyone observing, she appeared to be exactly what her cover identity claimed, a competent temporary worker focused on supporting a successful business presentation. The fact that she was simultaneously conducting surveillance on both organizations involved in the meeting was invisible to casual observation. "Any final questions about your responsibilities?" Derek asked, his attention focusing on Emma with the intensity of someone looking for potential problems to address before they became actual issues. "No, sir. I understand my role completely," Emma replied, her voice carrying the appropriate mixture of confidence and deference that Derek expected from temporary staff. Kyle shifted slightly, clearly wanting the inspection process to be over so he could focus on the actual presentation rather than continuing to worry about Derek's approval. "Everything is ready, Mr. Matthews. The Henderson team should find everything exactly as they expect." Derek nodded curtly, but Emma noticed his hand unconsciously touching the jacket pocket where he had stored her confiscated earrings. The gesture suggested someone who understood the value of the technology he had seized, though she doubted he comprehended the true sophistication of the devices currently transmitting his location and voice patterns to her handlers. The sound of approaching voices in the hallway indicated that the Henderson Industries team was being escorted toward the conference room. Emma took a small step backward, positioning herself in a location that would allow her to observe the proceedings while maintaining the appropriate invisibility expected of administrative support staff. Patricia Williams entered the room with the confident stride of someone accustomed to evaluating companies and making decisions that affected national security. She was tall, probably mid-50s, with silver hair pulled back in a style that suggested military precision adapted for corporate environments. Her suit was expensive but practical, and her eyes moved around the room with the systematic attention of someone trained to notice details that others might miss. Behind her came 3 other Henderson Industries executives, each carrying themselves with the professional competence that came from working in the high-stakes world of government contracting. Emma recognized 2 of them from her pre-mission research: Dr. Michael Chen, Henderson's chief technology officer and former NSA analyst, and Sarah Mitchell, their director of contract evaluation and a decorated Air Force veteran. The Apex Technologies executive team followed, led by CEO Jonathan Torres, whose nervous energy was barely concealed beneath his polished exterior. Emma had studied his background extensively during her mission preparation. Former Silicon Valley entrepreneur who had built Apex Technologies from a small cybersecurity consulting firm into a major player in the government contracting space. The Henderson Industries contract represented the biggest opportunity in his company's history, and his body language suggested he understood exactly how much was at stake. "Welcome to Apex Technologies," Torres said, extending his hand to Patricia Williams with the kind of firm handshake that suggested confidence despite the underlying tension that permeated the room. "We're honored to have the opportunity to present our capabilities for your evaluation." Patricia Williams smiled with the practiced warmth of someone who understood that business relationships required both professional competence and personal rapport. "Thank you for accommodating our schedule, Mr. Torres. Henderson Industries is always interested in identifying cybersecurity firms that can meet the demanding requirements of government contracting." The introductions continued with the formal politeness that characterized high-level business meetings, but Emma noticed that Patricia Williams's attention kept returning to details around the room that others might overlook. The positioning of the security cameras, the sophistication of the audiovisual equipment, and the way the Apex Technologies staff carried themselves during interactions with potential clients. As the executives settled into their seats around the massive conference table, Emma positioned herself at a side table where she could monitor the proceedings while remaining appropriately invisible. Kyle took his position near the presentation equipment, ready to handle any technical issues that might arise during the demonstration of Apex Technologies' cybersecurity capabilities. Derek Matthews remained standing near the door, his posture suggesting someone ready to address any security concerns that might develop during the presentation. His hand continued to unconsciously touch the pocket containing Emma's confiscated earrings, a gesture that had become more frequent as the importance of the meeting became apparent. "Before we begin," Patricia Williams said, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to controlling meeting agendas, "I'd like to discuss the security protocols you've implemented for this presentation. Henderson Industries takes information security very seriously, particularly when evaluating potential contractors for sensitive government projects. Torres nodded enthusiastically, clearly pleased that the conversation was beginning with Apex Technologies' security measures. Absolutely. Mr. Matthews, our head of security, has implemented comprehensive protocols to ensure that all presentation materials and discussions remain completely confidential. Derek stepped forward with the confidence of someone eager to demonstrate his competence to important clients. We've conducted thorough security screenings of all personnel with access to this presentation, including temporary staff. Every individual in this room has been verified as posing no security risk to the proceedings. Emma maintained her expression of professional attentiveness, while internally noting the irony of Derek's statement. If he only knew that the temporary staff member he had just vouched for was currently conducting surveillance on behalf of a government agency, his confidence in his security protocols might be somewhat diminished. That's reassuring, Patricia Williams replied, though her tone suggested someone reserving judgment until she could evaluate the actual effectiveness of those security measures. Information security is obviously critical when discussing capabilities that might be deployed in classified environments. The conversation continued with the kind of careful probing that characterized interactions between organizations trying to evaluate each other's trustworthiness and competence. Torres and his executive team emphasized Apex Technologies' track record and technical capabilities, while the Henderson Industries representatives asked increasingly specific questions about implementation details and security protocols. Emma took careful notes throughout the discussion, ostensibly documenting important points for administrative purposes but actually recording intelligence that would be valuable to her handlers. The technical specifications being discussed, the security concerns being raised, and the interpersonal dynamics between the two organizations all provided insights into capabilities and vulnerabilities that might prove useful for future operations. As the presentation progressed, Emma began to notice subtle signs of tension developing between Derek Matthews and Patricia Williams. Nothing obvious enough to disrupt the business discussion, but small indicators that suggested Williams was forming opinions about Apex Technologies' security measures that might not align with Derek's confident assertions. The way Williams' eyes lingered on the security cameras when Derek wasn't looking. Her barely perceptible frown when he described screening procedures that seemed more focused on demonstrating authority than actually identifying potential threats. The slight pause before she responded to his claims about comprehensive security protocols. Emma recognized the signs because she had been trained to notice them during her own career in intelligence work. Patricia Williams was conducting her own assessment of Apex Technologies' security measures, and her conclusions were apparently less favorable than Derek Matthews assumed. The technical demonstration phase of the presentation began, with Torres and his team showcasing Apex Technologies' cybersecurity platforms through carefully prepared scenarios that highlighted their capabilities. The systems were impressive, Emma had to admit, representing sophisticated approaches to network defense and threat detection that would be valuable for government contractors handling classified information. But as she watched the demonstration, Emma also began identifying potential vulnerabilities that her handlers would want to understand: weaknesses in the authentication protocols, gaps in the monitoring systems, and implementation details that suggested Apex Technologies' actual capabilities might not match their public claims. Kyle handled the technical aspects of the presentation with competent efficiency, managing the audio-visual equipment and ensuring that the demonstrations proceeded smoothly. His nervousness about Derek's supervision had given way to focused professionalism as he concentrated on supporting the executives who were trying to win the most important contract in their company's history. The Henderson Industries team asked increasingly detailed questions as the presentation progressed, probing specific aspects of Apex Technologies' cybersecurity capabilities with the systematic thoroughness of people who understood the technical requirements involved in protecting government information systems. Dr. Michael Chen, Henderson's chief technology officer, seemed particularly interested in the encryption protocols and network monitoring capabilities being demonstrated. His questions revealed a deep understanding of cybersecurity implementation that went well beyond theoretical knowledge, suggesting hands-on experience with the kind of classified systems that government contractors were expected to protect. "Your intrusion detection capabilities are impressive," Dr. Chen observed as the demonstration concluded, "but I'm curious about your protocols for handling sophisticated attacks that might come from state-sponsored actors with advanced persistent threat capabilities." The question was exactly the kind of technical challenge that Emma's handlers had predicted would arise during interactions between Apex Technologies and potential government clients. The answer would reveal important details about the company's actual defensive capabilities versus their marketing claims. Torres and his technical team responded with detailed explanations of their threat response protocols, but Emma noticed that Patricia Williams remained focused on details beyond the technical specifications being discussed. Her attention kept returning to the security measures Derek had implemented, the way staff interactions were handled, and the overall competence of Apex Technologies' operational procedures. As the presentation moved toward its conclusion, Emma sensed that something was building toward a moment of revelation that would change the dynamics of everything happening in that conference room. The tension between Derek's confident assertions about security and Patricia Williams' careful evaluation of actual procedures had been growing throughout the meeting, and Emma suspected that the former intelligence officer was preparing to address concerns that went beyond the technical capabilities being demonstrated. The moment came when Patricia Williams asked a question that seemed routine but carried implications that Derek Matthews was completely unprepared to handle. "Mr. Matthews," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone transitioning from polite inquiry to serious evaluation, "you mentioned conducting thorough security screenings of all personnel with access to this presentation. Could you walk me through the specific procedures you used to verify that no unauthorized surveillance devices were present during our meeting?" Derek's expression shifted from confident professionalism to barely concealed pride as he prepared to demonstrate his thoroughness to an important client. He reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew the plastic evidence bag containing Emma's confiscated earrings, holding it up like a trophy that proved his competence. "As an example," he said, "I personally confiscated these earrings from our temporary administrative staff member during the security screening process. Simple metal jewelry that could potentially contain hidden recording devices or transmitters." Emma maintained her expression of professional composure while internally preparing for the revelation that was about to unfold. Derek Matthews had just made the mistake of his career, and Patricia Williams was about to demonstrate exactly why former military intelligence officers were particularly suited for evaluating corporate security measures. Patricia Williams stood up slowly, her movement deliberate and controlled in the way that suggested someone transitioning from business evaluation to operational assessment. She walked around the conference table toward Derek, with steps that carried the quiet authority of someone who had just identified a critical security failure. "Mr. Matthews," she said, her voice carrying a tone that made everyone in the room understand that the business presentation had just ended and something much more serious was beginning. "Those aren't just simple earrings you've confiscated. Those are classified surveillance devices worth more than most people's annual salary. And the person you've been treating as temporary administrative staff is conducting intelligence operations that you're completely unqualified to understand." The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by the soft hum of the air conditioning system and the distant sound of traffic 42 floors below. Derek's face went through several shades of pale as the implications of Patricia Williams' words began to penetrate his consciousness. Kyle's mouth fell open in shock, while Torres and his executive team looked like they were watching their biggest business opportunity disintegrate before their eyes. Emma remained perfectly still, her notebook in her hands and her expression carefully neutral as the moment she had been preparing for finally arrived. The mission was about to enter a new phase, and everything that happened next would determine whether her infiltration of Apex Technologies achieved its intended objectives, or became a catastrophic intelligence failure that ended her career in government service. The words hung in the air like smoke from an explosion, and Emma watched Derek Matthews' face transform from smug satisfaction to confusion to dawning horror as Patricia Williams stepped closer to examine the plastic evidence bag he still held like a trophy. The Henderson Industries CEO moved with the predatory grace of someone who had spent years hunting much more dangerous prey than corporate security chiefs drunk on their own authority. "May I see those devices, Mr. Matthews?" Patricia's voice carried the kind of quiet command that brooked no argument, the tone of someone who had interrogated enemy combatants and exposed double agents in places where mistakes cost lives rather than just careers. Derek's hand trembled slightly as he extended the evidence bag toward her, his earlier confidence evaporating like morning dew under desert sun. The plastic crinkled softly as Patricia took it, holding it up to the light with the careful attention of someone who understood exactly what she was examining. Emma remained motionless at her position near the side table, her notebook clutched in hands that appeared steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. This was the moment her handlers had prepared her for, though the specific circumstances were unfolding in ways that deviated significantly from their original operational parameters. Patricia Williams wasn't supposed to recognize the earring's true nature quite this dramatically, And Derek Matthews certainly wasn't supposed to have confiscated them in front of the very person who might understand their significance. "These are whisper-class microtransmitters," Patricia announced, her voice cutting through the conference room's stunned silence like a blade through silk. "Military-grade surveillance equipment manufactured by a defense contractor that doesn't officially exist, deployed exclusively by intelligence agencies operating under classifications that most people in this room don't have clearance to know about." Dr. Michael Chen leaned forward in his chair, his expression shifting from mild curiosity to intense professional interest. As Henderson Industries' chief technology officer and former NSA analyst, he recognized the implications of Patricia's identification, even if he couldn't access the specific technical details of the devices in question. "The transmission range on equipment like that would be considerable," he observed, his voice carrying the analytical tone of someone processing information through years of intelligence experience. "Real-time audio and location data, probably biometric monitoring, possibly even environmental scanning capabilities." Torres looked like a man watching his company's future dissolve before his eyes, his carefully planned presentation forgotten as he struggled to understand how a routine business meeting had transformed into what appeared to be a counterintelligence operation. "I don't understand what's happening here," he said, his voice carrying the bewilderment of someone completely out of his depth. "What's happening?" Patricia replied, setting the evidence bag on the conference table with deliberate precision, "is that your head of security just confiscated classified equipment from a government operative during what he believed was a routine administrative screening." Kyle Johnson had gone pale as mountain snow, his earlier nervousness about Derek's supervision transformed into something approaching genuine terror as he realized he had been working alongside someone whose true identity was apparently known only to people with security clearances he couldn't imagine possessing. "Government operative?" Derek's voice cracked slightly on the words, his authority figure persona crumbling as the magnitude of his mistake began to register. "She's just temporary administrative staff. We ran background checks, verified her employment history, confirmed her references." Patricia Williams smiled with the cold amusement of someone who had spent decades in a profession where nothing was ever what it appeared to be. "Mr. Matthews, if you think background checks and employment verification can penetrate cover identities created by agencies that specialize in making people disappear and reappear with completely fabricated histories, then your understanding of operational security is even more limited than your performance here suggests." Emma felt the careful architecture of her cover identity beginning to shift, not collapsing but transforming into something that might serve different purposes than originally intended. Her handlers had prepared contingency plans for various exposure scenarios, but this particular combination of circumstances required improvisation and real-time assessment of rapidly changing operational requirements. "The question," Patricia continued, her attention now focused entirely on Emma with the intensity of someone conducting a field interrogation, "is what agency you represent and what specific objectives brought you to Apex Technologies during our contract evaluation process." The room's atmosphere had changed completely from corporate presentation to something resembling a classified briefing, with Emma suddenly finding herself at the center of attention from people who understood intelligence operations well enough to recognize when they were observing one in progress. Sarah Mitchell, Henderson Industries' Director of Contract Evaluation, spoke for the first time since entering the conference room. Her voice carried the authority of someone who had evaluated security contractors for sensitive government projects and understood the implications of finding active intelligence operations during routine business proceedings. "Standard protocol in situations like this is to suspend all contract discussions until the scope and objectives of the surveillance operation can be determined," she said, her words delivered with the precision of someone quoting from classified procedural manuals. "Henderson Industries cannot evaluate Apex Technologies' suitability for government contracting while an active intelligence operation of unknown parameters is in progress." Torres turned toward Emma with an expression that combined desperation with growing anger as he realized that his company's biggest opportunity was evaporating because of circumstances completely beyond his control. "Who are you really?" he demanded, his professional composure finally cracking under the pressure of watching months of preparation dissolve into chaos. Emma set her notebook on the side table with movements that were deliberate and unhurried, her decision-making process accelerating through options and consequences, with the speed that came from years of training in high-pressure situations. The mission parameters were shifting, but her core objectives remained achievable if she played the next few minutes correctly. "My name is Emma Chen," she said, her voice carrying a different quality now, the artificial deference and nervous energy of her cover identity replaced by something that suggested competence and authority. "I'm a senior analyst with the Defense Intelligence Agency's Special Activities Division, and I've been conducting a security assessment of both organizations represented in this room." The admission landed like a stone dropped into still water, sending ripples of consequence through everyone present. Derek Matthews stumbled backward until his shoulders hit the conference room wall, his face reflecting the growing realization that he had been attempting to intimidate and humiliate someone whose actual authority extended far beyond anything he had ever encountered. Kyle Johnson's mouth opened and closed without producing sound, his understanding of the morning's events undergoing radical revision as he processed the fact that the quiet administrative assistant he had been briefing on presentation protocols was apparently a government intelligence officer conducting classified operations. "Security assessment," Dr. Chen repeated, his analytical mind immediately focusing on the operational implications. "Assessing what specific security elements, and for what purpose?" Emma moved away from the side table, her posture and bearing transforming as she abandoned the submissive body language of her cover identity in favor of the confident stance of someone accustomed to briefing senior officials on matters of national security. "Apex Technologies has been under investigation for potential security vulnerabilities that could compromise classified government contracts," she replied, her tone carrying the authority of someone delivering an official briefing rather than participating in a business discussion. "Henderson Industries has been under assessment for possible penetration by foreign intelligence services seeking access to defense contractor evaluation processes." Patricia Williams nodded slowly, her expression suggesting someone who had suspected that the contract evaluation process might attract attention from intelligence agencies but hadn't expected to encounter an active operation during routine business proceedings. "And your assessment conclusions?" she asked, her question carrying the weight of someone who understood that Emma's answer might determine the future of both organizations' involvement in government contracting. Emma glanced around the room, noting the various expressions of shock, fear, and professional curiosity that greeted her revelation. Derek Matthews remained pressed against the wall, his earlier authoritarianism replaced by something approaching genuine terror as he contemplated the career consequences of his treatment of a government intelligence officer. Kyle and Lisa had positioned themselves near the door, clearly uncomfortable with their inadvertent involvement in what had transformed from corporate presentation to intelligence briefing. "Apex Technologies demonstrates significant technical capabilities but concerning operational security weaknesses," Emma replied, her assessment delivered with the clinical precision of someone trained to evaluate threats and vulnerabilities for classified reporting. "Leadership appears competent at the executive level but suffers from middle management security protocols that prioritize authority demonstration over actual threat identification." Derek's face flushed red as the implications of her assessment became clear, particularly the obvious reference to his own performance during the morning's interactions. His attempt to demonstrate security competence to important clients had instead revealed exactly the kind of operational weaknesses that intelligence professionals were trained to identify and exploit. "Henderson Industries shows strong technical competence and appropriate security awareness," Emma continued, "but the evaluation process itself represents a potential vulnerability if foreign intelligence services successfully infiltrate either the contractor evaluation team or the companies being assessed for sensitive government work." Torres had been listening with the growing realization that his company's biggest business opportunity was being evaluated not just as a potential government contractor, but as a possible national security risk. "What does this mean for our contract evaluation?" he asked, his voice carrying the strain of someone trying to salvage something from circumstances that had spun completely beyond his control. "That depends on how effectively your organization addresses the security concerns my assessment has identified," Emma replied, her tone suggesting someone accustomed to delivering potentially career-ending evaluations to people who had no choice but to accept them. Patricia Williams had been observing the exchange with the careful attention of someone who understood that intelligence operations often revealed information valuable for making business decisions. Her evaluation of Apex Technologies was being informed not just by their technical presentation, but by their handling of an unexpected security situation that revealed operational competencies and weaknesses no corporate demonstration could simulate. "Mr. Matthews," Patricia said, her voice carrying the authority of someone transitioning from observer to active participant in the intelligence assessment, "your handling of this morning's security screening raises serious questions about Apex Technologies' ability to implement effective security protocols for sensitive government projects." Derek pushed himself away from the wall, desperation evident in his movements, as he realized that his career, and possibly his company's future, were being determined by people whose authority extended far beyond the corporate environment where he had assumed he held power. "I was following standard security procedures," he protested, his voice carrying the defensiveness of someone whose competence was being questioned by experts whose qualifications he couldn't challenge. There was no way to know that she was conducting classified operations. Her background check showed nothing unusual. "Exactly the point," Dr. Chen interjected, his analysis cutting through Derek's excuses with the precision of someone who understood intelligence operations from an operational perspective. "Effective security protocols should assume that sophisticated threats will present as routine activities. The fact that you didn't consider the possibility of government surveillance during a major contract evaluation suggests fundamental weaknesses in your threat assessment capabilities." Emma watched the exchange with professional interest, noting how quickly the business discussion had transformed into an operational security assessment that would influence government contracting decisions worth millions of dollars. Her mission objectives were being achieved through circumstances that deviated significantly from original planning, but the intelligence gathering requirements remained constant. Kyle Johnson finally found his voice, though his words emerged as barely more than a whisper as he contemplated his own involvement in the morning's events. "What happens to us? To the people who were involved in the security screening?" "That depends on several factors," Emma replied, her tone carrying the authority of someone whose recommendations would influence administrative actions that could affect multiple careers. Cooperation with ongoing security assessments, willingness to implement recommended protocol improvements, and demonstration of understanding regarding the seriousness of operational security in government contracting environments. The implied threat was subtle but unmistakable, delivered with the professional courtesy that characterized interactions between intelligence professionals and civilian personnel whose cooperation was required for successful mission completion. Sarah Mitchell had been taking notes throughout the exchange, her documentation suggesting someone who understood that the morning's events would require detailed reporting to superiors who would need to make decisions about Henderson Industries' future evaluation processes. "This incident will need to be reported through classified channels," she observed, her words directed toward Patricia Williams but clearly intended for everyone present to understand. Both the security assessment findings and the operational security failures that allowed an intelligence officer to penetrate corporate security during a sensitive contract evaluation. Torres looked like a man watching his company's reputation crumble in real time, his carefully planned expansion into government contracting threatened by circumstances that had nothing to do with technical competence and everything to do with operational security failures he hadn't even known existed. "Is there anything we can do to address the security concerns?" he asked, his question directed toward Emma, with the desperate hope of someone seeking guidance that might salvage his business objectives from the wreckage of the morning's revelations. Emma considered the question with the analytical thoroughness that characterized her approach to intelligence assessments, weighing mission requirements against the genuine desire to provide constructive guidance to organizations that demonstrated willingness to improve their security postures. Comprehensive security protocol review, mandatory training for all personnel with access to sensitive information, and implementation of threat assessment procedures that assume sophisticated adversaries rather than routine administrative challenges, she replied, her recommendations delivered with the precision of someone whose expertise extended far beyond theoretical knowledge. Additionally, Patricia Williams added, her contribution carrying the authority of someone who understood government contracting requirements from both operational and administrative perspectives, demonstration of organizational commitment to security improvements through measurable changes in procedures and personnel accountability. Derek Matthews had been listening to the exchange with growing understanding that his position at Apex Technologies was no longer secure, his authority undermined not just by the morning's mistakes, but by the revelation that his entire approach to security was fundamentally flawed, according to experts whose opinions carried significant weight with potential government clients. "I can implement whatever changes are necessary," he said, his words carrying the desperation of someone whose career depended on convincing intelligence professionals that he could adapt to requirements he had never previously understood. Emma's expression remained professionally neutral as she evaluated Derek's offer, though her assessment of his suitability for security responsibilities had been fundamentally altered by his performance during the morning's interactions. The combination of authoritarian behavior, poor threat assessment, and inability to recognize sophisticated surveillance suggested someone whose continued involvement in security operations represented a liability rather than an asset. Implementation of effective security improvements requires understanding of the principles underlying the procedures, she replied, her words carefully chosen to convey professional assessment without direct personal attack. That understanding typically develops through extensive training and experience with actual security threats rather than theoretical compliance with administrative protocols. The implication was clear to everyone present, though delivered with the diplomatic courtesy that characterized professional intelligence briefings. Derek's tenure as head of security at Apex Technologies was effectively over, his replacement a necessity for any organization seeking to demonstrate serious commitment to operational security improvements. Dr. Chen had been analyzing the technical implications of the morning's revelations, his expertise in cybersecurity operations, providing perspective on the broader consequences of the intelligence assessment for both organizations involved in the contract evaluation process. The penetration of corporate security during a sensitive business meeting suggests vulnerabilities that extend beyond individual personnel issues, he observed, his analysis directed toward both Patricia Williams and Emma as the intelligence professionals present. Systemic weaknesses in threat assessment, inadequate screening procedures, and organizational culture issues that prioritize compliance over effectiveness. Emma nodded in agreement, recognizing the accuracy of Dr. Chen's assessment and its relevance for the broader security evaluation that had brought her to Apex Technologies in the first place. The morning's events had provided more comprehensive insight into operational security weaknesses than months of traditional surveillance might have revealed. Those systemic issues represent the primary security concerns for government contracting purposes, she confirmed, her words carrying the authority of someone whose assessments would influence decisions about which organizations received access to classified projects. Technical competence is necessary but not sufficient for sensitive government work without corresponding operational security capabilities. The conference room had become the site of an impromptu intelligence briefing, with corporate executives receiving education about security requirements that most private sector organizations never encountered until they sought access to government contracts that demanded understanding of threats and vulnerabilities extending far beyond routine business considerations. Patricia Williams glanced at her watch with the gesture of someone managing multiple operational schedules, her attention divided between the immediate circumstances and the broader implications for Henderson Industries' evaluation processes. This assessment will require extensive debriefing and analysis before any contract recommendations can be finalized, she announced, her words directed toward Torres but clearly intended for everyone present to understand the magnitude of the morning's impact on the evaluation process. Emma recognized that her mission was transitioning into a new phase, the intelligence gathering objectives largely accomplished through circumstances that had revealed both organizations' capabilities and vulnerabilities more comprehensively than originally planned operational parameters had anticipated. The earrings continued transmitting from Derek's jacket pocket, their sophisticated sensors recording every word and gesture for analysis by her handlers, who were undoubtedly monitoring the situation with professional interest in its implications for ongoing security assessments throughout the government contracting community. What had begun as a routine infiltration operation had evolved into something resembling a real-time case study in corporate security failures, with consequences that would extend far beyond the immediate participants to influence policy decisions about contractor evaluation procedures and operational security requirements for sensitive government projects. The revelation was complete, but Emma understood that the most challenging phase of her mission was just beginning, as the morning's events would require careful management to ensure that intelligence objectives were achieved without compromising ongoing operations or creating diplomatic complications between agencies whose cooperation was essential for national security purposes. 3 hours later, Emma sat in the executive boardroom on the 45th floor, surrounded by documents that would reshape Apex Technologies' entire approach to security operations. The view from this height encompassed the entire Denver metropolitan area, stretching toward mountains that seemed close enough to touch despite being dozens of miles away. The morning's chaos had given way to systematic debriefing sessions that revealed the full scope of both organizations' capabilities and vulnerabilities. Patricia Williams had commandeered the largest conference room for what she termed, quote, operational damage assessment, though Emma recognized it as something closer to a field investigation conducted by someone whose experience with intelligence operations extended far beyond corporate consulting. The Henderson Industries CEO had spent the past 2 hours on secure phone calls with contacts in Washington, discussing implications that reached well beyond the immediate contract evaluation. Derek Matthews was conspicuously absent from these discussions, having been escorted from the building by Torres himself after a private conversation that lasted less than 10 minutes. Kyle Johnson had provided a detailed written statement about the morning's events before being reassigned to duties that didn't involve interaction with sensitive information or important clients. The organizational restructuring was happening with surgical precision, each personnel change designed to address specific security vulnerabilities that Emma's presence had revealed. Torres paced behind his desk with the restless energy of someone processing multiple crises simultaneously while trying to salvage whatever remained of his company's reputation and business prospects. His carefully styled hair was disheveled from running his hands through it, and his expensive suit looked rumpled despite the early hour. The confident executive who had begun the morning presenting to potential clients had been replaced by someone grappling with the realization that his organization's security was fundamentally compromised. "I still don't understand how someone with her background could penetrate our screening procedures so completely," he said, his voice carrying frustration and genuine bewilderment. "We use the same background check services as major defense contractors. Verify employment history through multiple sources. Require references from previous supervisors." Dr. Chen looked up from the classified tablet he'd been using to access Emma's operational profile, his expression reflecting the analytical satisfaction of someone whose professional expertise was being validated by real-world evidence. "The sophistication of modern cover identity creation exceeds most corporate security measures by several orders of magnitude," he explained, his tone carrying the authority of someone who had evaluated similar operations during his NSA tenure. Agency resources for identity fabrication include everything from retroactive employment records to fabricated personal relationships spanning decades. Emma reviewed her own documentation with professional interest, noting the impressive thoroughness of the identity construction that had enabled her infiltration of Apex Technologies. The Emma Chen who existed in corporate databases had attended Colorado State University, worked for 3 different administrative staffing agencies, maintained social media profiles dating back 8 years, and possessed references from supervisors who would confirm her employment history if contacted. The real Emma Chen's background included training at classified facilities that didn't appear on any public maps, deployment to operational theaters that remained redacted from official records, and expertise in technological surveillance that most intelligence agencies couldn't access without special authorization. The dichotomy between her cover identity and actual qualifications represented exactly the kind of operational deception that corporate security measures were incapable of detecting. "What's particularly concerning," Sarah Mitchell observed as she compiled notes for her classified report, "is that Ms. Chen's infiltration succeeded despite Apex Technologies implementing what appeared to be comprehensive security protocols. If foreign intelligence services deployed similar resources, your vulnerabilities could be exploited by adversaries whose objectives extend far beyond contract evaluation." The implications hung heavy in the air like smoke from an electrical fire, acrid and impossible to ignore. Torres had spent months preparing for the Henderson Industries presentation, convinced that technical competence and impressive facilities would demonstrate his company's readiness for government contracting. Instead, the evaluation had revealed security weaknesses that threatened not just the immediate contract, but Apex Technologies' entire future in the defense sector. Emma's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from her handlers, the kind of brief communication that conveyed operational guidance without revealing sensitive details to unauthorized observers. The text appeared innocuous to casual observation, mentioning a rescheduled dental appointment and grocery shopping reminders, but Emma decoded the actual message with practiced efficiency. "Mission parameters expanded. Full technical assessment authorized. Cooperation level exceeds expectations. Extend operational timeline indefinitely." The message confirmed what Emma had suspected since Patricia Williams' recognition of her surveillance equipment transformed the morning's agenda. Her handlers were adapting mission objectives to take advantage of unprecedented access to both organizations' operational procedures and decision-making processes. The botched security screening had created opportunities for intelligence gathering that traditional surveillance methods couldn't have achieved. "Ms. Chen," Patricia Williams said, her attention focusing on Emma with the intensity of someone transitioning from administrative discussion to operational planning. "Your assessment of Apex Technologies' technical capabilities suggests genuine competence in cybersecurity implementation. The security failures we've observed this morning appear to be administrative rather than technical in nature." Emma nodded, recognizing the accuracy of Patricia's observation and its significance for the broader evaluation process. The engineering teams demonstrate sophisticated understanding of network defense protocols and threat assessment methodologies, she confirmed, her words carrying the authority of someone whose technical background extended well beyond administrative assistance. The vulnerabilities are concentrated in operational security procedures and personnel management rather than fundamental technical competence. Dr. Chen leaned forward with the engagement of someone whose professional curiosity had been activated by technical discussion. Specific technical strengths that might be relevant for classified government projects: advanced persistent threat detection, sophisticated encryption implementation, and adaptive network defense protocols that exceed industry standards. Emma replied, drawing on both her cover identity's supposed administrative exposure and her actual expertise in evaluating cybersecurity systems for intelligence applications. The technical teams appear capable of implementing security measures appropriate for sensitive government work, assuming proper operational oversight. Torres stopped pacing, his attention caught by the first positive assessment he'd heard since the morning's revelations began destroying his understanding of his company's capabilities and vulnerabilities. Does that mean we might still be considered for government contracting opportunities? It means, Patricia Williams replied with the careful precision of someone whose words would influence policy decisions at the highest levels of government, that Apex Technologies possesses technical competence but requires fundamental restructuring of security operations before being considered suitable for sensitive projects. The conditional approval was both encouraging and daunting, representing opportunity contingent on organizational changes that would affect every aspect of how Apex Technologies approach security and personnel management. Torres understood that rebuilding his company's security operations would require expertise he didn't currently possess and resources he wasn't sure he could afford. What specific changes would be required? He asked, his question directed toward Emma and Patricia as the intelligence professionals whose recommendations would determine his company's future in government contracting. Emma consulted her notebook, though the recommendations she was about to deliver came from years of operational experience rather than morning observations. Complete replacement of security leadership with personnel possessing actual intelligence experience, implementation of threat assessment protocols that assume sophisticated adversaries, and mandatory training for all staff with access to sensitive information. Additionally, Patricia added, her contribution carrying the weight of someone who understood government contracting requirements from both operational and administrative perspectives, demonstrated commitment to continuous security improvement through regular assessment by qualified intelligence professionals, and willingness to implement recommendations regardless of cost or operational complexity. The requirements were extensive and expensive, representing fundamental changes to organizational culture rather than simple procedural adjustments. Torres began calculating costs and timelines, his expression reflecting the growing realization that meeting these standards would require investment measured in millions of dollars and organizational disruption extending over many months. Sarah Mitchell had been monitoring the discussion while maintaining secure communication with Henderson Industries personnel, who were analyzing the morning's events for broader implications regarding contractor evaluation procedures. Her responsibilities extended beyond the immediate assessment to consider how similar security failures might affect other organizations seeking government contracts. This incident will influence Henderson Industries' evaluation protocols for all future contractor assessments, she announced, her words carrying implications that extended far beyond Apex Technologies' immediate situation. The penetration of corporate security during a sensitive business meeting demonstrates vulnerabilities that could affect any organization seeking access to classified projects. Emma recognized the broader significance of the morning's events for intelligence operations throughout the private sector. Her successful infiltration of Apex Technologies had revealed systemic weaknesses in corporate security that foreign intelligence services could exploit for purposes extending far beyond contract evaluation. The case study emerging from her mission would influence policy decisions about contractor screening procedures and operational security requirements across the entire government contracting community. Dr. Chen had been analyzing technical specifications that Apex Technologies had provided during their original presentation, comparing their claimed capabilities with Emma's assessment of actual competence. His expertise in cybersecurity evaluation provided perspective on the relationship between technical proficiency and operational security that would inform Henderson Industries' recommendations about future contractor relationships. The dichotomy between technical excellence and operational security failures suggests organizational culture issues that extend beyond individual Personnel problems, he observed, his analysis directed toward Patricia Williams as the senior intelligence professional present. Fundamental misunderstanding of the relationship between technical capability and comprehensive security implementation. Emma nodded in agreement, recognizing the accuracy of Dr. Chen's assessment based on her observations throughout the morning's interactions. The engineering teams understand sophisticated technical implementation, but security protocols are treated as administrative compliance rather than operational necessity, she confirmed. Management lacks understanding of threat assessment principles that assume adversaries possess significant resources and sophisticated methodologies. The conversation was providing Emma with insights into Henderson Industries' evaluation criteria that would prove valuable for her handler's understanding of how government agencies assessed private sector capabilities for sensitive projects. The technical competence that impressed corporate clients was insufficient for intelligence applications that required comprehensive operational security extending far beyond routine business considerations. Torres had been listening to the technical discussion with growing appreciation for the complexity of the security requirements he had never previously understood. His assumption that corporate success in civilian markets would translate directly to government contracting opportunities was being systematically dismantled by experts whose experience encompassed threats and vulnerabilities that most private sector executives never encountered. If we implemented all the recommended changes, he asked, his voice carrying both hope and apprehension about the resources such improvements would require, would Apex technologies be considered suitable for classified government projects? Patricia Williams exchanged glances with Dr. Chen and Sarah Mitchell, the kind of silent communication that occurred between intelligence professionals evaluating information whose implications extended beyond immediate circumstances. Emma recognized the careful consideration that preceded assessments whose accuracy would influence national security decisions, affecting millions of dollars in government contracts. Demonstrated implementation of comprehensive security improvements would position Apex Technologies for consideration, Patricia replied, her words chosen with diplomatic precision that conveyed possibility without commitment. Final determination would depend on successful completion of additional security assessments conducted under more stringent evaluation protocols. The conditional approval represented significant progress from the morning's complete security failure, but Emma understood that the requirements for achieving actual government contracting status would test Apex Technologies' organizational commitment in ways that most corporate leaders couldn't anticipate. The transition from private sector security thinking to intelligence community standards required fundamental changes in approach that many organizations found impossible to achieve. Lisa Thompson appeared in the doorway with the cautious demeanor of someone interrupting discussions whose sensitivity exceeded her clearance level. Her professional composure remained intact, despite the morning's chaos, though Emma noticed signs of stress that suggested the reception manager understood that her workplace had been fundamentally altered by circumstances beyond anyone's control. Mr. Torres, Lisa said, her voice carrying the careful formality of someone navigating unfamiliar terrain. There are several calls from potential clients asking about this morning's meeting. How should I handle inquiries about the Henderson Industries presentation? Torres looked toward Patricia Williams with the expression of someone seeking guidance about communications that could affect his company's reputation throughout the industry. The morning's events had undoubtedly generated discussion within the government contracting community, and his response to external inquiries would influence how other organizations perceived Apex Technologies' suitability for sensitive projects. Standard business confidentiality protocols, Patricia replied, her guidance carrying the authority of someone whose experience with classified operations included managing information security during complex operational circumstances. All discussion of specific meeting content remains confidential pending completion of the evaluation process. Emma recognized the diplomatic language that protected both organizations' interests, while acknowledging that the morning's events would require careful management to prevent broader intelligence community implications from affecting routine business relationships. The successful infiltration of corporate security during a government contractor evaluation had created ripple effects that extended far beyond the immediate participants. Dr. Chen was preparing to leave for a secure communication session with NSA contacts who would analyze the technical implications of Emma's assessment for broader cybersecurity policy. His departure would mark the beginning of classified reporting processes that would influence government contracting standards throughout the intelligence community. Ms. Chen, he said, his attention focusing on Emma with professional respect that acknowledged her expertise despite the circumstances of their meeting. Your technical assessment has provided valuable insights into private sector capabilities and vulnerabilities. The intelligence community benefits from operational perspective on corporate security implementation. Emma appreciated the recognition from someone whose experience in intelligence operations matched her own, though she understood that her mission was entering a new phase that would require careful navigation of relationships between multiple organizations whose interests didn't necessarily align. The successful penetration of Apex technologies had created opportunities for extended intelligence gathering that exceeded original mission parameters. Patricia Williams was reviewing classified documents that had arrived via secure courier during the afternoon's discussions, her expression reflecting the careful attention of someone processing information that would influence policy decisions at the highest levels of government. The morning's events had triggered reporting requirements that reached throughout the intelligence community and Defense Department. The broader implications of this security assessment will require extensive analysis and coordination between multiple agencies, she announced, her words directed toward Emma as much as the Apex Technologies executives present. Your operational findings have revealed vulnerabilities with national security implications that extend well beyond individual contractor evaluation. Torres understood that his company had become the subject of intelligence community attention that could either enhance or destroy their prospects for government contracting, depending on how effectively they implemented the recommended security improvements. The morning's presentation had evolved into something resembling a national security case study, with consequences that would influence policy decisions affecting the entire private sector. Emma's phone buzzed again with another encrypted message from her handlers, this one containing operational guidance that would extend her mission timeline indefinitely, while expanding her access to both organizations' ongoing operations and decision-making processes. The botched security screening had created unprecedented opportunities for intelligence gathering that traditional surveillance methods couldn't achieve. The afternoon sun slanted through the executive boardroom's floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across documents and laptops that contained information capable of reshaping government contracting policies throughout the intelligence community. What had begun as routine contractor evaluation had evolved into operational intelligence assessment, with implications extending far beyond the immediate participants. Emma realized that her infiltration of Apex Technologies had achieved objectives that exceeded original mission parameters while creating new operational requirements that would test her ability to maintain cover identities under extended surveillance conditions. The morning's revelations had transformed her from temporary administrative staff to intelligence professional, whose ongoing presence would be essential for achieving broader national security objectives. The consequences were just beginning to unfold, but Emma understood that her expertise in operational assessment had proven invaluable for evaluating private sector capabilities and vulnerabilities that posed significant implications for government contracting policies throughout the intelligence community. Her mission was expanding in scope and duration, with success measured by intelligence gathered rather than simple infiltration objectives completed. 6 months after the Henderson Industries presentation that changed everything, Emma Chen walked through the lobby of Apex Technologies with the confident stride of someone whose authority was no longer questioned by anyone in the building. The sleek corporate environment looked identical to her first day as a temporary administrative assistant, but the invisible dynamics of power and respect had transformed completely. Security personnel nodded respectfully as she passed. Executives paused their conversations to acknowledge her presence, and even the reception staff treated her with the deference typically reserved for senior leadership. Her official title was Director of Operational Security, a position created specifically to address the comprehensive security overhaul that had become necessary after her infiltration exposed systematic vulnerabilities throughout the organization. The role combined her genuine expertise in intelligence operations with the cover identity requirements that allowed her to maintain ongoing surveillance while genuinely improving Apex Technologies' security posture for legitimate government contracting purposes. The elevator carried her to the executive floor where she maintained an office that reflected her dual role as both intelligence operative and corporate security executive. The space was furnished with the kind of understated elegance that suggested serious professional authority, but Emma had ensured that the sophisticated communication equipment hidden within seemingly ordinary office furnishings could maintain contact with her handlers while appearing to support routine corporate security operations. Marcus Rodriguez greeted her in the hallway with the respectful familiarity that had developed between them over months of collaborative work on security protocol implementation. He had been promoted to Chief Information Officer after demonstrating exceptional competence during the organizational restructuring that followed Derek Matthews' termination, and Emma had found him to be both professionally capable and genuinely committed to improving Apex Technologies' security culture. Morning briefing is set for 8:30, Marcus informed her as they walked toward the conference room that had become the site of weekly security assessments. The latest penetration testing results show significant improvement in network defense protocols, and the personnel training program is exceeding compliance targets across all departments. Emma nodded approvingly, though her satisfaction with Apex Technologies' security improvements was tempered by ongoing intelligence gathering requirements that her handlers had expanded significantly since her initial infiltration. The company's transformation into a genuinely secure organization had created opportunities for accessing information about government contracting processes that traditional surveillance methods couldn't achieve. The conference room where Derek Matthews had once confiscated her earrings had been converted into a secure briefing facility that met classified communication standards for sensitive government projects. The transformation was both symbolic and practical, representing Apex Technologies' commitment to operational security while providing Emma with legitimate access to information that served her intelligence mission objectives. Torres entered the room with the confident bearing of someone whose organization had successfully navigated a potentially catastrophic security crisis and emerged stronger than before. His leadership during the post-infiltration restructuring had impressed both Emma and her handlers, demonstrating the kind of adaptive management capability that government agencies valued in private sector partners for sensitive projects. Patricia Williams will be joining us via secure video conference, Torres announced as he reviewed the morning's agenda. Henderson Industries has completed their comprehensive security assessment, and we're expecting final recommendations about our classification status for government contracting. Emma maintained her expression of professional interest, while internally acknowledging the irony that she would be participating in a briefing about her own operational assessment of the organization she had infiltrated. Her dual role as both subject and evaluator of the security improvements created complex ethical considerations that she navigated through careful attention to genuine organizational benefits versus intelligence-gathering objectives. The video conference system activated with the sophisticated encryption that had become standard for all sensitive communications at Apex Technologies. Patricia Williams appeared on the wall-mounted display with the professional composure that characterized her approach to contractor evaluation, though Emma detected subtle signs of satisfaction that suggested positive assessment outcomes. "Good morning, everyone," Patricia began, her voice carrying clearly through the secure communication system. "I am pleased to report that Henderson Industries has completed our comprehensive evaluation of Apex Technologies' security improvements and organizational transformation." Torres leaned forward with the barely concealed tension of someone whose company's future depended on the next few minutes of conversation. The months of expensive restructuring, personnel changes, and protocol implementation had represented the largest investment in Apex Technologies' corporate history, with success measured entirely by their ability to meet government contracting standards that few private sector organizations ever achieved. "Our assessment team has reviewed all aspects of your security transformation," Patricia continued, "including personnel changes, protocol implementation, training program effectiveness, and most importantly, the comprehensive cultural shift toward genuine operational security rather than administrative compliance." Emma recognized the careful language that characterized classified briefings, where positive outcomes were communicated through diplomatic precision that acknowledged achievement while maintaining appropriate caution about ongoing requirements. Her own reports to her handlers had contributed significantly to Henderson Industries' evaluation, though her recommendations had been filtered through channels that protected her operational cover. "The technical competence that impressed us during our initial presentation has been enhanced by operational security measures that meet the standards required for classified government projects," Patricia announced, her words carrying the weight of official approval that would transform Apex Technologies' business prospects. "Henderson Industries is prepared to recommend Apex Technologies for preliminary security clearance status, contingent on successful completion of final verification procedures." The room erupted in restrained celebration, with Torres and Marcus exchanging satisfied glances that reflected months of intensive effort to achieve this moment. Emma allowed herself a small smile of genuine appreciation for the organizational transformation she had both catalyzed and guided, though her professional satisfaction was complicated by ongoing intelligence requirements that her handlers continued to expand. Dr. Chen appeared on the secure video feed alongside Patricia Williams, his presence indicating that the technical assessment had been as comprehensive as the security evaluation. His expression reflected the analytical satisfaction of someone whose professional expertise had been validated by successful organizational transformation under challenging circumstances. The cybersecurity capabilities we observed 6 months ago have been integrated with operational security measures that demonstrate genuine understanding of the threat environment facing government contractors. Dr. Chen reported, his assessment carrying the authority of someone whose NSA background provided credibility throughout the intelligence community. Apex Technologies has achieved the kind of comprehensive security posture that we typically observe only in organizations with extensive intelligence community experience. Emma appreciated the recognition of her contribution to Apex Technologies' security transformation, though she understood that her ongoing role would require continued balancing of genuine organizational improvement with intelligence gathering objectives that served broader national security purposes. The successful integration of her expertise with corporate requirements had created a model for similar operations throughout the private sector. What specific clearance levels will be available for Apex Technologies personnel? Torres asked, his question reflecting careful consideration of the business opportunities that would result from achieving government contractor status. Initial clearance will support secret-level projects, Patricia replied, with potential advancement to top-secret status based on demonstrated performance and continued security compliance. The progression timeline typically extends over 12 to 18 months, depending on project requirements and ongoing assessment results. The clearance progression represented exactly the kind of long-term access that Emma's handlers valued for intelligence operations that required sustained surveillance of government contracting processes. Her position as Director of Operational Security would provide legitimate justification for accessing information about classified projects while maintaining cover identity protection that allowed continued intelligence gathering. Sarah Mitchell joined the video conference from Henderson Industries' secure facility, her presence indicating that the morning's briefing would address broader implications beyond Apex Technologies' individual assessment. Her responsibilities for contractor evaluation policy meant that the lessons learned from Emma's infiltration would influence security standards throughout the government contracting community. The security transformation achieved by Apex Technologies will serve as a case study for other organizations seeking government contractor status, Sarah announced, her words carrying implications that extended far beyond the immediate participants. The comprehensive approach to organizational security culture represents best practices that Henderson Industries will recommend to all potential contractors. Emma recognized that her mission had achieved objectives that exceeded original parameters by creating policy influence that would affect intelligence operations throughout the private sector. The successful infiltration and subsequent organizational transformation had demonstrated both vulnerabilities and solutions that would inform government contracting standards for years to come. Additionally, Sarah continued, the ongoing collaboration between Apex Technologies and Henderson Industries will provide opportunities for continuous security assessment and improvement that benefit both organizations and the broader government contracting community. The ongoing collaboration ensured that Emma's intelligence gathering opportunities would continue indefinitely, with legitimate justification for maintaining close relationships with both organizations while accessing information about government contracting processes that traditional surveillance methods couldn't achieve. Her handlers had achieved unprecedented access to intelligence sources through her successful organizational integration. Kyle Johnson entered the conference room with the confident bearing of someone whose career had been transformed by circumstances that initially seemed catastrophic, but ultimately provided opportunities for professional growth that exceeded his original expectations. His promotion to Security Operations Manager reflected both his demonstrated competence and the organization's commitment to promoting personnel who understood the seriousness of operational security requirements. Personnel training completion rates have exceeded 95% across all departments, Kyle reported, his presentation reflecting the professional competence that had emerged after Derek Matthews' departure eliminated the toxic management culture that had hindered organizational effectiveness. Employee feedback indicates genuine understanding of security principles rather than simple compliance with administrative requirements. Emma nodded approvingly, recognizing that Kyle's transformation from nervous subordinate to competent security professional represented exactly the kind of organizational culture change that her infiltration had been designed to catalyze. His success demonstrated the benefits of replacing authoritarian management with genuine expertise and collaborative leadership approaches. The transformation has been particularly notable in employee attitudes towards security protocols. Kyle continued, his analysis reflecting careful attention to cultural indicators that traditional assessments might overlook. Staff members now approach security as professional responsibility rather than bureaucratic burden, with voluntary reporting of potential vulnerabilities and proactive suggestions for improvement. The cultural transformation represented one of Emma's most significant achievements during her extended mission at Apex Technologies. Her ability to influence organizational behavior through example and expertise had created lasting changes that would benefit both legitimate security objectives and ongoing intelligence-gathering requirements for years to come. Lisa Thompson had been promoted to Director of Administrative Security, a new position that recognized her competence in managing personnel security during sensitive operations, while acknowledging the importance of administrative functions in maintaining comprehensive organizational security. Her performance during the crisis that followed Emma's revelation had demonstrated exactly the kind of calm professionalism that government contractors required for classified projects. Visitor management protocols now include comprehensive background verification for all personnel with potential access to sensitive information, Lisa reported, her presentation reflecting the systematic approach that characterized Apex Technologies' transformed security culture. The procedures would have detected and prevented the kind of infiltration that exposed our previous vulnerabilities. Emma appreciated the irony that Lisa was describing security measures designed to prevent exactly the kind of operation that Emma had successfully conducted, though she understood that the improved protocols served legitimate security purposes while creating cover for her ongoing intelligence activities. The organization's transformation had made her presence both more valuable and more sustainable for extended operations. Patricia Williams addressed the broader implications of Apex Technologies' security transformation for government contracting policy throughout the intelligence community. Her perspective encompassed both the immediate benefits of successful organizational change and the systemic improvements that could result from applying similar approaches to other private sector organizations seeking government contractor status. The collaborative approach to security improvement demonstrated by Apex Technologies represents a model that Henderson Industries will recommend to other organizations seeking access to classified projects, Patricia announced, her words carrying policy implications that would influence government contracting standards across multiple agencies. The combination of technical competence with genuine operational security culture creates exactly the kind of private sector capability that government agencies require for sensitive projects. Emma understood that her successful integration with Apex Technologies had created a template for similar intelligence operations throughout the private sector, with her experience providing guidance for other operatives tasked with assessing and improving corporate security for government contracting purposes. The model combined legitimate organizational benefits with intelligence-gathering opportunities that served broader national security objectives. Dr. Chen concluded the technical assessment portion of the briefing with observations about cybersecurity implementation that reflected both immediate improvements and ongoing requirements for maintaining security standards appropriate for classified government projects. His analysis encompassed both technical capabilities and operational procedures that demonstrated comprehensive understanding of the threat environment facing government contractors. The integration of technical capabilities with operational security measures has created cybersecurity implementation that exceeds industry standards while meeting government requirements for classified project access, Dr. Chen reported, his assessment carrying the credibility that came from extensive experience evaluating corporate capabilities for sensitive government applications. Apex Technologies has achieved the kind of comprehensive security posture that positions them for long-term success in government contracting. The technical validation represented significant achievement for Torres and his organization, though Emma recognized that ongoing success would require continued attention to security requirements that most private sector organizations found challenging to maintain over extended periods. Her ongoing presence would provide both legitimate security expertise and intelligence community oversight that benefited all parties involved. As the briefing concluded, Emma reflected on the transformation that had resulted from her infiltration of Apex Technologies 6 months earlier. The organization that had initially demonstrated significant technical capabilities but concerning security vulnerabilities had evolved into a model government contractor with comprehensive security culture and genuine operational competence that exceeded most private sector standards. The personal transformations had been equally significant. Derek Matthews' departure had eliminated toxic leadership that hindered organizational effectiveness, while promoting personnel like Kyle Johnson and Lisa Thompson, who demonstrated genuine commitment to security excellence rather than authoritarian control. The cultural change represented exactly the kind of improvement that intelligence operations were designed to achieve when organizational transformation served both immediate and long-term national security objectives. Torres approached Emma after the other participants had left the conference room, his expression reflecting both gratitude for her contribution to the organization's transformation and understanding that her ongoing presence represented continued opportunity for achieving excellence in government contracting. Their professional relationship had evolved from initial tension during her infiltration to genuine collaboration that benefited both legitimate business objectives and intelligence community requirements. 6 months ago, I thought this company was facing catastrophic failure, Torres said, his words carrying the reflection of someone who had experienced organizational crisis and emerged with enhanced understanding of the requirements for success in government contracting. Your expertise and guidance have created opportunities that exceeded our most optimistic projections. Emma appreciated Torres' recognition of her contribution while understanding that her ongoing mission would require continued balancing of organizational improvement with intelligence-gathering objectives that her handlers expanded based on access opportunities that her position provided. The successful integration of her expertise with corporate requirements had created sustainable cover for extended intelligence operations. The transformation has been comprehensive, Emma replied, her response acknowledging both immediate achievements and ongoing requirements for maintaining security standards appropriate for classified government projects. Continued success will depend on organizational commitment to security excellence rather than simple compliance with minimum requirements. Her guidance reflected both genuine concern for Apex Technologies' continued success and intelligence community interest in maintaining access to information about government contracting processes that traditional surveillance methods couldn't achieve. The dual objectives had proven compatible through careful attention to legitimate organizational benefits that supported broader national security purposes. Marcus Rodriguez joined the conversation with updates about upcoming projects that would test Apex Technologies' newly acquired government contractor capabilities. His technical expertise and collaborative leadership style had made him an invaluable partner in implementing security improvements while maintaining operational effectiveness that supported both business objectives and intelligence gathering requirements. The first classified project assignment should arrive within the next few weeks, Marcus reported, his words carrying both excitement about new opportunities and understanding of the responsibilities that accompanied access to sensitive government projects. The initial work will provide opportunity to demonstrate our capabilities while establishing the track record necessary for advancement to higher clearance levels. Emma recognized that the classified project assignments would provide exactly the kind of intelligence access that her handlers valued most, with legitimate justification for accessing information about government operations, while maintaining cover identity protection through her official role as Director of Operational Security. The ongoing evolution of her mission reflected successful adaptation to opportunities that exceeded original operational parameters. The afternoon sun streamed through the conference room windows as Emma reviewed documents related to upcoming security assessments that would maintain Apex Technologies' government contractor status while providing continued intelligence gathering opportunities. The routine had become comfortable, combining genuine professional satisfaction with the ongoing challenge of serving dual objectives that required careful attention to both organizational benefits and national security requirements. Kyle Johnson knocked on the conference room door with the respectful demeanor that characterized all interactions with Emma since her true expertise had been revealed during the crisis that transformed their organization. His professional development had accelerated significantly under her mentorship, creating exactly the kind of competent security leadership that government contractors required for long-term success. The quarterly security assessment reports are ready for your review, Kyle announced, his presentation reflecting the systematic approach that now characterized all security operations at Apex Technologies. Compliance metrics continue to exceed government contracting standards, and employee feedback indicates sustained commitment to security excellence rather than mere procedural compliance. Emma accepted the reports with professional satisfaction, recognizing that Kyle's transformation from nervous subordinate to competent security professional represented one of her most significant achievements during the extended mission. His success demonstrated the benefits of replacing authoritarian management with genuine expertise and collaborative leadership that served both legitimate organizational objectives and intelligence community requirements. The reports contained detailed analysis of security improvements that would interest her handlers, while providing legitimate documentation of Apex Technologies' continued suitability for government contracting. The dual purpose reflected the successful integration of intelligence gathering with organizational improvement that had become the hallmark of her extended operation. As evening approached, Emma prepared to leave the office that had become both her workplace and operational headquarters during 6 months of successful organizational transformation. The building that had once represented a challenging infiltration target had evolved into a comfortable environment where her expertise was valued and her presence welcomed by colleagues who understood the significance of her contribution to their success. The parking garage was quiet as she walked toward her car, the same vehicle she had driven as a temporary administrative assistant, but now parked in a space reserved for senior executives. The symbolic transformation reflected broader changes that had affected every aspect of her relationship with Apex Technologies and its personnel. Her phone buzzed with an encrypted message from her handlers, the routine communication that maintained coordination between her ongoing mission and broader intelligence community objectives. The text appeared to discuss weekend social plans, but Emma decoded the actual message that provided operational guidance for the following week's activities. Continued operation approved indefinitely. Access quality exceeds all projections. Expansion to additional targets under consideration. Outstanding performance recognition noted at highest levels. Emma smiled slightly as she started her car, recognizing that her successful integration with Apex Technologies had created the kind of long-term intelligence access that intelligence agencies valued most. The combination of legitimate organizational improvement with sustained surveillance capabilities represented exactly the kind of operational success that built careers in government service. The drive home took her through Denver neighborhoods that had become familiar during 6 months of maintaining cover identity while conducting extended intelligence operations. The routine aspects of her daily life provided necessary normalcy that balanced the ongoing complexity of serving dual roles that required constant attention to both immediate objectives and long-term operational requirements. Her apartment reflected the comfortable lifestyle of a successful corporate security executive, though Emma had ensured that the sophisticated communication equipment hidden throughout the space could maintain contact with her handlers while appearing to support routine professional activities. The integration of intelligence capabilities with civilian cover identity had become seamless through months of careful attention to operational security. As she prepared dinner while reviewing classified reports on her secure tablet, Emma reflected on the remarkable transformation that had resulted from a security screening that was intended to demonstrate Derek Matthews' authority, but instead revealed her true identity and expertise. The morning that had begun with humiliation and confusion had ultimately created opportunities that exceeded anything her original mission parameters had anticipated. The daunt earrings that had triggered the crisis now rested in a secure facility where their sophisticated technology continued to provide valuable intelligence about corporate security vulnerabilities throughout the private sector. Their confiscation had served purposes that Derek Matthews could never have imagined, contributing to policy changes that would influence government contracting standards for years to come. 6 months later, Emma Chen had achieved the kind of operational success that intelligence professionals spent entire careers hoping to accomplish. Her infiltration of Apex Technologies had evolved into sustained access that served both legitimate organizational improvement and broader national security objectives through careful integration of expertise with ongoing intelligence requirements. The quiet satisfaction of professional achievement balanced the ongoing complexity of maintaining dual roles that required constant attention to both immediate responsibilities and long-term operational objectives. Emma understood that her success at Apex Technologies had created opportunities for continued service that would benefit both the organization she had genuinely helped improve and the intelligence community that valued her expertise and access. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and continued opportunities for serving the dual objectives that had become central to her professional identity. The transformation from temporary administrative assistant to director of operational security represented exactly the kind of successful long-term operation that demonstrated the value of intelligence professionals who could adapt to circumstances while maintaining focus on objectives that served broader national security purposes. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.